He was worth $300 million. He owned 4 homes, a private jet, and a car collection most men only dream about. But on a cold Tuesday evening in October, he stood completely still in the middle of a busy street in downtown Nashville, rain soaking through his $1,000 coat, staring at a small food stall across the road. And everything he had ever built meant absolutely nothing in that moment. Because standing behind that stall, laughing, glowing, and more alive than he had ever seen her, was the woman he once called his wife. And beside her was a little boy, maybe 7 years old, stirring a pot and singing something under his breath. A little boy who shared his nose, his jawline, his eyes. A little boy who had no idea his father was watching him from across the street. That moment, right there, was the moment Marcus Cole finally understood what he had lost. Not what was taken from him. What he had thrown away. With his own hands. One missed dinner at a time. Before we go any further, drop a comment right now and tell us where you're watching from. We love hearing from our community all around the world. And if you're new here and you love powerful, true-to-life stories like this one, click that subscribe button so you never miss what's coming next. Now, let's go back to the beginning. Marcus Cole grew up in a 2-bedroom apartment in Memphis, Tennessee. His mother worked double shifts at a diner 6 days a week. His father left when Marcus was 9. Not dramatically, no big argument, no tearful goodbye. His father just stopped coming home. And Marcus, at 9 years old, made a quiet promise to himself standing at the kitchen window waiting for headlights that never came. He would never, ever be poor. He would never need anyone. He would never be left behind again. By the time Marcus was 28, he had started his first real estate development company with $40,000 he had saved working 2 jobs through college. By 32, that company was worth over $11 million. By 37, he was on the cover of a regional business magazine with the headline, "The Man Who Builds Empires." He read that headline while sitting at his kitchen counter alone, eating leftover Chinese food at 11 o'clock at night. His wife had already gone to bed. Their son had already been asleep for hours. He had missed dinner. Again. Her name was Rachel. Rachel Cole, formerly Rachel Simmons, from a small town called Clarksville, about an hour outside of Nashville. She was a kindergarten teacher when they met. Marcus had gone to her school to donate supplies as part of a charity drive, and Rachel had been the one to greet him at the door with a clipboard and a firm handshake and absolutely zero interest in the fact that he had arrived in a Range Rover. She didn't look at his watch. She looked at his eyes. And she said, with a warm but no-nonsense smile, "We really appreciate the donation. The kids will love it." That was it. That was the moment Marcus Cole, self-made millionaire, felt completely disarmed by a kindergarten teacher with a clipboard. He asked her to coffee 3 times before she said yes. She wasn't playing games, she was genuinely busy, genuinely unimpressed by money, and genuinely trying to figure out if this guy in the expensive car was actually real. When she finally said yes, he showed up 5 minutes early and brought her a book she had mentioned once, offhandedly, weeks before. She raised an eyebrow. He shrugged. She thought, okay. This one's different. They were married 2 years later in a backyard ceremony with 60 people, lights strung through oak trees, and Rachel wearing a simple white dress she had bought on sale. Marcus cried. He didn't expect to. But when he saw her walking toward him, he thought, for the first time in his adult life, that maybe building things wasn't the only thing that mattered. Their son, Tyler, was born 14 months after the wedding. 7 pounds, 2 ounces. Dark hair. Loud lungs. Marcus was in the delivery room, and when the nurse placed Tyler in his arms for the first time, something shifted inside of him. Something deep and quiet and impossible to describe. He looked at this tiny person and thought, "I will protect you. I will give you everything. I will make sure you never stand at a window waiting for headlights that don't come." What Marcus didn't understand yet, what he wouldn't understand for years, was that giving Tyler everything didn't mean giving him money. It meant giving him time. The cracks started small, the way they always do. A dinner missed because of a conference call. A bedtime skipped because of a flight. A Saturday morning at the park that turned into Marcus sitting on a bench answering emails while Tyler played alone on the swings. Rachel would notice. She always noticed. She wouldn't say anything right away. She would just get this look, not angry, not cold, just quietly sad, like someone watching a beautiful painting fade in the sun. She would give him time. She would tell herself he was building something for them. And Marcus believed it too. He truly, genuinely believed it. Every late night, every missed anniversary dinner, every unanswered voice message, all of it was for them. For Rachel. For Tyler. So they would never worry about anything. But here is the thing about love that Marcus had never learned, because no one had ever taught him: love doesn't run on intentions. It runs on presence. And Marcus was absent. Not cruel. Not unfaithful. Just absent. Physically in the house sometimes, but mentally somewhere else entirely. At the dinner table, his phone was always face up. At Tyler's soccer games, he was always standing slightly apart from the other parents, on a call. At Rachel's school performances, the ones she invited him to twice a year with quiet hope, he made maybe half of them. And when he didn't show, he always had a reason that made complete logical sense and meant absolutely nothing to the woman sitting in the third row with an empty seat beside her. One night, Tyler was about 4 years old. Marcus came home just after midnight. The house was quiet. He walked past Tyler's room and saw the door cracked open. He pushed it gently. Tyler was asleep, one small arm wrapped around a stuffed dog. On the nightstand was a drawing in crayon, a man in a suit holding a phone, and a little boy standing far away, arms stretched out. Marcus stood there for a long time. Then he went to bed. He told himself he would do better tomorrow. Tomorrow was always the plan. Rachel tried. She tried in the ways that patient, loving people try, not with ultimatums at first, but with honesty. She told him, one evening when Tyler was at her mother's, "Marcus, I feel like I'm raising him alone." He said he understood. He said he would cut back. He bought her flowers that weekend. He took Tyler to the park on Sunday. By Wednesday he was on a plane to Dallas for a deal that couldn't wait. Rachel said nothing. She just looked out the window and watched him drive away. Then came Tyler's 5th birthday. Marcus had promised. He had written it in his calendar, set 2 reminders, told his assistant to block the day. And then a crisis hit, a major investor threatening to pull out of a $40 million project, and Marcus made a call. He told himself he'd only miss the morning. He'd be back by 3. Tyler's party was at 2. He was not back by 3. He walked in at 6:45 in the evening. The streamers were still up. The cake had been cut and mostly eaten. Tyler was in his pajamas, eyes heavy with sleep, clutching a small remote control car, not the one Marcus had bought, but the one Rachel's brother had given him, who had actually been there. Tyler looked at Marcus standing in the doorway. He didn't run to him. He just said, quietly, "Hi, Daddy," and went back to looking at the car. That small, flat, "Hi, Daddy," hit Marcus somewhere he didn't have a name for. He kissed Tyler's head and said, "I'm sorry, buddy. I'll make it up to you." Tyler was already half asleep. Rachel was in the kitchen washing dishes when Marcus came in. He started explaining, the investor, the deal, the millions at stake. She didn't turn around. She kept washing. And when he finished talking, she said, very quietly, without anger, "Tyler asked me 3 times today if you were coming." I didn't know what to tell him. Then she dried her hands, folded the dish towel neatly, and walked upstairs without another word. "You're still watching at this point, drop a comment saying, 'I'm still here.' Let's see who is truly following this story, because it's about to get even more real." Things did not explode overnight. That is not how real marriages end. Real marriages end slowly, like a tide going out. You don't notice it until the shore is bare. Over the next 2 years, Rachel became quieter. Not sad, just quieter. She stopped waiting up for him. She stopped saving a plate. She stopped telling him about her day, because he would listen for 30 seconds and then check his phone, and she had run out of the energy it took to pretend that didn't hurt. She threw herself into her students, into Tyler's school activities, into building a small life inside her life, one that didn't require Marcus to show up for it to feel whole. And Marcus, wrapped in deal cycles and quarterly projections, told himself things were fine. They had a beautiful house. They had money. They had Tyler. Things were fine. Then one evening in March, Tyler was 6, Rachel sat Marcus down at the kitchen table. Tyler was asleep. The house was still. And she said, with the kind of calm that only comes after a person has done a great deal of crying in private, "Marcus, I need to tell you something, and I need you to actually hear me. Not plan your response while I'm talking. Just hear me." He nodded. She said, "I don't feel married anymore. I feel like your housemate. I feel like I am invisible to you. And I've tried to tell you this in smaller ways for years, and I don't think you've heard me. So I'm telling you clearly now, if things don't change, really change, not just for 2 weeks, I don't know how much longer I can do this." Marcus heard her. He genuinely did. And he said the right things. He said he was sorry. He said she was right. He said he was going to change, not eventually, but now. He meant every word. He even booked a family vacation to the Florida coast for the following month. Rachel smiled. Not a big smile. But a real one. A hopeful one. He saw that smile and thought, we're going to be okay. He canceled the vacation 11 days before they were supposed to leave. A new deal. A major one. He explained it on a Tuesday evening, phone in hand, already calculating. Rachel listened. She nodded slowly. And something in her face that he couldn't quite read, something shifted. Like a door closing very softly. Not slamming. Just closing. He missed it completely. 6 weeks later, on a Saturday morning in May, Marcus came downstairs and found a handwritten letter on the kitchen counter. It was 2 pages. Rachel's handwriting, neat, careful, the same handwriting she used on birthday cards and school permission slips. He picked it up and read it standing at the counter in his socks. He read it twice. Then he sat down on the kitchen floor. Because the letter said, gently, honestly, without malice, that she and Tyler were going to stay at her mother's for a while. That she was not leaving him in anger. She was leaving because she had finally understood something. She could not keep waiting for a version of him that might never arrive. She said she still loved him. She said she hoped he would one day understand. She said Tyler would always know his father. But she needed to breathe. Marcus called her immediately. It went to voicemail. He called again. Voicemail. He drove to her mother's house. Her mother answered the door, looked at him for a long moment, and said, "She needs some space, Marcus. Please respect that." He stood on the porch. He could hear Tyler playing somewhere inside. He could hear his son laughing. He drove home and sat in his empty kitchen for 4 hours. He told himself she would come back. She needed time. He would give her space and she would come back and they would fix it. He threw himself into work with the kind of focus that only the truly heartbroken can manage, because work had always been his escape, his control, his proof that he mattered. Over the next 6 months, he closed 3 major deals. His company crossed $100 million in value. He bought a larger house. He bought it thinking, somewhere in the back of his mind, that Rachel would see it, that it would mean something. She never saw it. What happened over those first 6 months of separation was this: Rachel did not come back. She filed for divorce quietly, through a lawyer, 8 months after she left. The papers arrived on a Thursday. Marcus's assistant brought them to his office and placed them on his desk without a word because she could tell from the envelope what they were. He signed them on a Friday night, alone, at his home office desk, with a glass of whiskey he barely touched. He told himself he was fine. He was not fine. He just had nowhere to put the feeling, so he put it in a new business acquisition and kept moving. Rachel received the settlement, fair, generous, uncontested. She took what she needed and left everything else. And then she did something Marcus genuinely had not anticipated: she disappeared. Not literally, not illegally, she simply moved on. She moved to a smaller town. She left the area completely. She changed her number. Her mother would give Marcus updates about Tyler. Tyler was healthy, Tyler was happy, Tyler was doing well in school. But Rachel went quiet. And Marcus, who had spent 15 years being the most unreachable person in every room, suddenly understood what it felt like to be on the other side of silence. He hired a private investigator 18 months after the divorce was finalized. He told himself it was about Tyler, that he deserved to know where his son was, that he wanted to be more present now, that he had changed. The investigator came back 3 weeks later with a manila envelope. Rachel and Tyler were in Asheville, North Carolina. She had a job at a local elementary school. She rented a small house near a park. The investigator had included a photo, a long-lens shot from a public street. Rachel at a farmer's market, Tyler beside her. Both of them laughing at something off-camera. Tyler had grown. He looked healthy and bright-eyed and completely, entirely fine. Marcus stared at that photo for a long time. Then he put it back in the envelope. Then he took it out again. He noticed something in that photo that he couldn't explain and couldn't stop thinking about. Rachel looked free. Not happy in a performance. Not pretending. Genuinely, quietly, deeply free. Like someone who had put down something very heavy and finally felt the relief of open hands. He had never seen her look like that when she was with him. That realization sat in his chest like a stone. 2 more years passed. Tyler's visitation was handled through lawyers, weekends, holidays, summer stretches. Marcus showed up for these visits. He was present in a way he had never been before. He took Tyler to baseball games and cooking classes and weekend hikes and late-night movies. He listened when Tyler talked. He put his phone away, not always, not perfectly, but genuinely, effortfully. Tyler, who had been guarded at first, careful in the way children are when they've been disappointed enough times, slowly opened up. By the time Tyler was 8, he would run to Marcus's car when he arrived for pickup. That was everything. That running, those few steps across a driveway, was worth more to Marcus than every deal he had ever closed. But Rachel remained a wall of polite, firm distance. They communicated about Tyler through texts and brief phone calls. She was never cruel. Never cold. Just professional. Contained. And Marcus, who had not said the right things for years when it would have mattered, now found himself unable to say the right things at all. Then came the October evening that changed everything. Marcus was in Nashville for a business meeting, a routine check-in with a contractor on a downtown development project. The meeting ended early. It was raining. He pulled his coat tighter and decided to walk a few blocks before calling his car. He had been doing that lately, walking, something he had never done before. He used to think walking was wasted time. Now he understood that sometimes walking was the only thing that kept his thoughts from eating him alive. He turned a corner onto a side street near the farmer's market district, and that's when he saw her. A small food stall with a yellow awning. Hand-painted letters on a chalkboard sign, Rachel's Kitchen, home-cooked comfort food. He stopped so suddenly the man behind him nearly walked into him. And there she was. Rachel. In an apron. Laughing at something a customer had said. And beside her, stirring a massive pot of something that smelled like chili even from across the street, was Tyler. His Tyler. In an apron that was 3 sizes too big, with his sleeves rolled up, singing something quietly under his breath. Marcus stood there in the rain and didn't move. He didn't know for how long. A minute. Maybe 5. He watched Tyler hand a paper cup to an elderly man and say something that made the man laugh and pat his shoulder. He watched Rachel scoop cornbread into takeout containers with the kind of easy, practiced joy of someone who had found exactly what they were meant to be doing. He watched them move around that tiny stall like they had a rhythm, passing things, laughing, bumping shoulders, a 2-person team that had found its footing and was absolutely thriving. And Marcus Cole, standing in the rain in a coat that cost more than Rachel's monthly rent, felt something break open inside his chest. Not grief exactly. Something bigger and more complicated. The understanding, clear and total and unavoidable, that the thing he had been chasing his whole life, the thing he had built empires trying to acquire, was right there across the street in a yellow-awning food stall. And it wasn't his anymore. He had had it. He had held it. And he had let it go one cancelled vacation at a time. Think about that for a moment. Have you ever had something precious right in your hands, something real, something warm, something irreplaceable, and not realized its value until you were standing across the street watching someone else carry it forward? Because that is exactly what Marcus Cole felt in that rain. And it is one of the loneliest feelings in the world. He almost walked away. He took 2 steps back, then stopped. Something kept his feet on the pavement. He crossed the street. The rain was getting heavier. Tyler saw him first. Tyler looked up from the pot, blinked, and said, not with excitement, not with coldness, just with a kind of careful honesty, "Dad? What are you doing here?" And Marcus said, "I was walking by. I saw the sign." Tyler nodded slowly. Then Rachel turned around. She didn't gasp. She didn't look away. She just looked at him, steady, calm, the way she had always looked at him when she had something important to say and was deciding whether it was worth saying. Then she said, "Hi, Marcus." He said, "Hi, Rachel." And for a moment they just stood there in the rain, 15 years of marriage and 2 years of silence between them like weather. He said, "Can I talk to you?" "Not about Tyler. Just, I want to talk." She handed a customer their change, said something to Tyler about watching the temperature on the pot, and then she stepped out from behind the counter and stood in front of him. She crossed her arms. Not in anger, in the way you cross your arms when you're bracing yourself for something that might still have the power to hurt. He said, "I've been thinking about what you said in that letter. For 2 years I've been thinking about it. And I want you to know, I understand now. I understand what you meant. I understand what I did. And I don't need anything from you. I don't have any ask. I just needed you to hear that, from me, out loud, not through a lawyer or a text. I was absent. I chose to be absent. I told myself it was for you and Tyler, but it was for me. It was always for me. And I'm sorry." He stopped. He had rehearsed more, a lot more, but standing in front of her, in the rain, with Tyler watching from behind the counter, he found that was all he actually needed to say. Rachel looked at him for a long time. Her expression didn't change dramatically. She didn't cry. She didn't smile. She just looked at him with clear, steady eyes, and said, "I know you believe that, Marcus. I do." Then she said something he had never expected. She said, "I don't hate you. I want you to know that. What I was trying to build with you, I've built it now. Just differently. And Tyler is happy. And I am happy. So the story didn't end badly. It just ended differently than I planned." She paused. Then she said, "But thank you. For saying it out loud." Then she said one more thing. She said it quietly, not looking at him, watching Tyler pour chili into a cup with focused concentration. "He smiles more now, Marcus. He smiles more now than he did during those years when he was waiting for you to come home. I'm not saying that to hurt you. I'm saying it so you understand, the best thing you can do for him now is exactly what you've been doing. Just be there. Keep being there. She went back behind the counter. She nudged Tyler's shoulder. Tyler looked up and gave Marcus a small wave. Marcus waved back. Then he stood there in the rain alone for another full minute. Then he turned and walked away. He sat in his car for a long time that night. He didn't call anyone. He didn't open his laptop. He just sat in the parking garage around the corner and let the silence be what it was. He thought about